Hi there. Welcome to Productivi-Tree. I'm Santi Tacoronte, and I'm here to help you succeed and be happier. In each episode, we'll explore new ways to work smarter, manage your time better, and grow as a person. We'll share fresh ideas, find ways to improve, and help you become your best self at work, in life. Join me as we learn and grow together on Productivi-Tree. Billy Mandarino is an author, speaker, and nowist, teaching people to become more aware of the gifts in the present moment. His hit book, The Nowist, is full of wisdom from his own journey. The inspiration and truth Billy Mandarino presents in his new book, The Nowist, is a life-changing creation. Billy dives deep into the essence of us all and breaks down present moment living in a very unique way. Welcome to Productivi-Tree, Billy.
Thank you, Santiago. It's my pleasure to be here, my honor to be here. I'm just excited to share this experience with you in this present moment that we're in right now.
Thank you so much. Let's start right away with it. You are known by something called the Nowist philosophy. What is it?
So I don't know about you, Santiago, but this world is doing its best to keep us out of present moment awareness and into physical time. And I've been through a lot in my life, physical challenges, emotional, spiritual, financial challenges that affected my life. But about a decade ago, I realized through a series of synchronicities, are you aware what that word, Carl Jung coined that word synchronicity? It means that a random happenstance is not a random happenstance at all. It's the universe conspiring to serve you if you have the eyes of awareness to see. Well, I was in this tumultuous time in my life and pretty overwhelmed, stressed, thought I was having a heart attack. And I had this satori, this flash of enlightenment on a golf course, believe it or not, that enabled me to have the awareness, kind of like Eckhart Tolle did in his book, The Power of Now. He also had a flash of enlightenment to realize that the present moment is the most powerful moment you have in your life. But most people just spend a few moments there. They rarely visit the present moment. In the book, the teaching teaches you how to live in 90% present moment awareness and 10% worldly duties. Most people live in the inverse. Speaking to you earlier, Santiago, you probably would fall in that category, where we get caught up in the doing of the world and we forget about the presence of this powerful moment, where you have the ability to get out of what I call, linear chronicle psychological time and to get into that vertical that is present moment awareness, that is this divine eternal time. And where there's those two cross, that sweet spot, that crossification is the generous present moment. So I have learned through a series of habits and techniques that I teach that I've applied to my life to get out of stress. 90% of my day I live in present moment awareness. 10% the world can affect me, but I know how to quickly get back in the moment. And it serves my emotional, physical, spiritual, financial life to a degree that it's almost otherworldly, but it's accessible to everyone.
I want to revisit those techniques a bit later, but why do you think it's so difficult for most of us to live in the present? Why are we always chasing the next thing?
It's conditioning, it's habit. There's inertia, there's momentum. I call it infobesity. We're obese with information in this society, in this world. We're obese with information because we're constantly the onslaught of constant instant gratification, the next thing, competing with the Joneses. I mean, Mark Twain said, comparison is the death of joy. And I believe the lack of that joy has got us into this momentous living where we're just focused on competing and the next thing and the next dopamine hit, the next serotonin hit, that kind of the neural link between our brain and our thoughts and feelings. There's this neural programming, this neuroplasticity that we have, but we're victims to this society that's always caught up in the next thing. You have to have the next shiny object. You have to be better than your neighbor. You have to have this next great vacation, job, relationship. We're being fed a bad bill of goods. We're taught that the happiness is out there. It's not internal. So the inside job, to become present is a step in the direction of you. When you can learn that living in present moment awareness and focus your imagination and your intent with your highest self is focused on what it is you really want from a higher perspective, not from a worldly linear. The gravity of your problems is the problem with this world, is it pulls you into the gravity, and the inertia of that keeps you out of present moment awareness, because the world is always pulling you someplace else instead of the content, present moment where everything is satisfied.
Were people in the past more present than now? If you go back 150 years, 200 years, do you think people were more present or they were also thinking what's next?
Absolutely more present. Let's think about our indigenous American Indian culture here in the United States. They had this saying, it said, no tree is so foolish to fight amongst its branches, right? No tree is so foolish to fight amongst its branches, meaning it's grounded in the earth. It's a simple, but we fight against our branches. We want to be better than the other branch. We want to have this something that separates us from you. We're not content because we always think there's something else to make us fulfilled. And also, speaking of the American Indians, they didn't have cell phones. They didn't have letters. They communicated through awareness. Literally, have you seen those smoke signals that in American Indian tribes would send out these smoke signals? That was created so that 2 miles away, you see the smoke signal from one tribe, and the other tribe would know that it's time for the shaman, the most enlightened, connected person, to open up their awareness and receive a communication about maybe an onslaught, an enemy attacking their village. They would communicate that way. We've lost that awareness because the gravity of this world and the negative thinking patterns have taken us out of that awareness. But I know we can access it again, and that's my mission with the Nowist teaching, to bring presence back into the world as a way of life. But it has to be taught. It has to have consistent practices. There's this ancient proverb that says, repetition is the mother of skill. You need to repeat these new processes to get back into your awareness.
You say that now, spelled backwards, is one. What do you mean by that, and how does it relate to success? How do we correlate being present to be more successful?
Well, I've been fortunate for the last decade to speak to high schools, boardrooms, groups of financial institutions, real estate offices, small businesses. But most importantly, I've been able to speak to the youth because I feel like the youth are on the front lines of this negative world, this inertia, this momentum that is happening with stress and overwhelm and anxiety and separation anxiety. And speaking to the youth, I always have these simple concepts that you allude to. NOW spelled backwards is one. When you're in the now, you have one. You've won your presence back into your life. It's also a homonym, O-N-E, one. One moment, one thought, one connected moment in awareness, which takes you out of physical time, that linear time, gets you in the vertical. That's the crossification. That center is the now. When you're in the now, you have won. You've won your presence back. You've won over the inertia of time, the psychological thinking, the monkey mind, as they call it in the Zen tradition, that's swinging from branch to branch, trying to get to the next thing instead of being rooted in the present moment awareness, where this light feeling of peace can surround you if you know how to use your presence consistently and not think your way out of presence. There's no thinking is the lie, Santiago. Feeling is the truth. And we've been taught that the inverse is true. Like, who was it? Jean-Paul Sartre said, I think, therefore I am, I believe I think he said, I think, therefore I am. So he created thinking with being. The idea in the Western world that thinking is part of your being, but that's not true. No, you think, therefore I am. But Voltaire then said, paradise is where I am, relating paradise with being, not thinking, if that makes sense.
The world is speeding up. I think that by now that's very clear. And it doesn't seem that it's going to stop or slow down anytime soon. I want to link your thinking with productivity. What are the productivity killers that stem from not being present?
Multitasking is the biggest lie that we have been sold in this modern society. Would you agree? That you can be efficient, that you can be successful if you're doing all these things at once. And hey, I'm not knocking it, but I've been able to do it. I'm a business person. I have a property management company. I have a real estate company. I also have a spiritual teaching business. We're in the process of making a feature-length film. I am blessed to be a world-class father of 30 years. I'm a daughter of 18 years. My wife and I have been married for 30 years. I'm blessed to be physically healthy. And I can do all that only because I'm not trying to accomplish more. I've learned to be content. I've learned that when I have everything I need, I get everything I want. I'm going to say that again because it's very important. It's in the book. When you have everything you need, you get everything you want. When you can live in content, oneness, the abundance flows into you, emotionally, spiritually, financially, psychologically. So I'm blessed to have great wealth in all areas of life because I've learned to live this way. And it can be taught, and I've lived it for the last 10 years. I do live events. I do speaking. Like I said, we're making a feature-length film about it right now. And it's all about how can I serve people to live out of this illusion of the world. And out of this illusion, as Einstein called it, time is an illusion, a man-made concept. Why do we keep bringing our quality of our life into time and into comparison and competing? It's a complete lie.
You do lots of things, but you don't multitask. How do you manage to accomplish so much? And I want to enter now, Billy, in the field where we give actual actionable advice to the listeners.
Fantastic. I have a great concept and a great thought and a great actionable idea. Don't set goals anymore. I don't believe in setting goals. I gave up goals about a decade ago when I dove deep into this teaching, was teaching what I was teaching around the world, wrote the book about it, did live events and seminars and one-on-one coaching, which I continue to do. But it's this idea, and I learned this from Neville Goddard. Look him up. He's a great spiritual teacher from the 30s and 40s. He taught about living in the end instead of about the end. And just think about that. Living about the end is you've got a goal. I'm a manager. I'm a realtor, a property manager. Let's say I got a $10 million house that I'm trying to sell. And I understand that you cannot just wish that property sell, that the buyer just magically shows up. I understand that because I've been doing this for almost 20 years. But I have sold probably $100 million worth of property in my life, in my career, from thinking from the end, not about the end. About the end, just to clarify, about the end is in the traditional sense. I've got to do open houses. I've got to do postcards. I got to do email blasts. I have to have brokers opens. I have to feed everybody. I have to really work my tail off to sell that property. But what I have done is the inverse of that. I still do those things, but I don't come from the place of fear, of separation from the end. So what I do, I'm in our master bedroom right now. So before I go to bed, and I've done this many, many times, before I go to bed every night, I will imagine it's Christmas time from the end, once again, that I'm bringing this family that just bought this beautiful estate in Santa Barbara or Montecito. I brought them over their closing gift. I can smell the smells of Christmas. I can sense the feeling that's around my body, the love of the holidays. I will taste the eggnog that they give me as I walk through the door. I will hear the sounds of Christmas music. And I do that every night before I go to bed. I'll do it night after night. That's thinking from the end, meaning it's already done. The property is already sold and closed. I have not sold it yet. I still have, maybe I just got the listing a week ago, but I still live in that end. It's a psychological, it's a subjective process of thinking from the end instead of about the end. So one story happened to me where I was imagining this family. I would imagine a husband that was dark-haired, a blonde wife, that had 2 children that looked like them. They were a blonde daughter, a dark-haired son, and had a dog. And I was selling this property up on the hills here, this beautiful ocean view property. I think it was a $3 million property. And I would imagine that. I did it night after night. After I got this listing, another agent had spent 6 months and could not sell this property. I got hired. I spent 7 nights in this bed. On the 8th night, I got a call from an agent that had a buyer. So I met them at the showing, and this dark-haired man, blonde-haired woman, the family was there, the little boy, the girl. They had a dog that was a black dog in my imagination, but it was an actual quiche hound, which is a salt and pepper dog that showed up. 14 days later, we closed escrow on that property. So that is thinking from the end, not about the end. So you understand how goal setting is much different than that.
It's an interesting concept because there is the common knowledge or understanding that goals is what keep people active, motivated, engaged. So what should all these corporations do with their yearly goal setting and all this stuff? Should they completely scrap it?
No, what you need to do is change your mindset. You need to change the way, because I still have actionable tasks I do. I can't manage all the properties I manage, sell the properties I do, be a husband, a father to an 18-year-old daughter. We have a little dog that I have to walk twice a day. I'm also in the process of creating the funds to make this film. We have a director, producer, screenwriter. We're in the process. We just came from the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, have great meetings looking to fund this locally. And this is a pretty large film, but it's a feature-length film. I mean, there's so much doing that I have to do. But the problem is, you've heard it before, we're not human doings, we're human beings. And how often in your goal setting process, in your corporate meetings, I understand that. I understand you lead big, some multi-billion dollar companies. You can't just woo-woo your way through thinking from the end. There's an actionable process. But the problem is we think in the doing more than we do in the being. So if you're in the goal setting process, or I call it just focused intention process, if you're in that process, if you had an actionable seminar, a gathering with your CFO, your CEO, your collective culture consciousness that is your company, and you could change their mindset from being to doing, the goal setting could still stay in place, but you'd have a whole new way to approach it. Like I do when I sell a property. I still do the open houses, the flyers, the email blasts. I still have open houses where I feed people, brokers opens where I feed the brokers. I still have that process. I just don't have the feeling of fear anymore that is about the end instead of from the end. Because imagine that, Santiago, if you could think, you've got a corporate, you got to make a 10% increase this year in your funding, or maybe you need to make a big call. You need an investor for your company because you're a startup. I mean, if you could get everybody to think in a collective consciousness it's already done as a team. We've already accomplished this. It's the end of the year. It's December 31st. We've created our 10% increase. But you didn't come from the place of you have to hammer people through. You've got to do this. You've got to make more calls. You've got to fly to more meetings. You've got to connect with more people. If you could do it, if you could have more being in your doing, just imagine how that would that collective consciousness in your company would shift.
Many high achievers tie their self-worth to how busy they are. And it's almost rewarded in companies. The busiest guy or the busiest lady is those that are highly regarded. How do you help people detach from that mindset of busyness?
I could tell you, Santiago, I've coached and worked with many folks that fit that description. Super successful financially. They can do everything. They're C-suite executives. They're folks in the company salespeople that are just killing it. But they're unhappy physically. Their body's showing them that they're stressed. Their marriage is showing them the physical health, their family, their kids are not, because they're doing it. They're making it happen. They're rarely present enough to satisfy that internal energy field of the body where true wealth and true happiness resides. I can't think of one that I've met that's got it all, that's been able to solve the riddle of being in the world and not of the world, that's a human being and a human doing. It's very rare because you have to have such a degree of presence, such a degree of checking in with your body, with the inner energy field of your body and your stress. And how are you sleeping? How does your physical world look when you're 9 to 5? Are you getting connected to your family members? Are you doing something fun like golfing or running or swimming or hiking? Do you have time to do it all? I mean, I say this humbly, as a nowist, I've been able to do that. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. I'm just saying I've learned to live in a way, thanks to divine synchronicities, universal synchronicities, some great coaches and teachers that I've had, such as Eckhart Tolle, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Neville Goddard, phenomenal teachers in my life that have given me the inspiration and the concepts to live by. But the doers in the world, when you really check in with them, Santiago, you'll find there's a sacrifice they're making that could affect their health, their family, or their marriage.
If someone listening right now is constantly overwhelmed with emails, deadlines, notifications, what's the first step that they need to take to bring more presence into their work and their life?
I've heard this before, but the best way into present moment is to focus on one conscious breath. It could be multiple times, but when you can feel the tension in your hands, your shoulders, you feel it in your neck, you can feel it in your gut. There's these energy centers that make up our body. There's 7 of them. They're called chakras. You call them energy centers. But when you feel tension and stress and you're out of alignment, meaning there's stress somewhere in your body, if you can take, with your eyes closed, a very conscious breath in your nose, out your mouth. If you're stressed, there's this other technique where you breathe in your nose twice. You go, hold for a few seconds, just. If you do that, it changes the carbon monoxide in your system, the oxygen CO2 combination. If you can take a conscious breath with your eyes closed, and with your eyes closed, connected to one of the most powerful parts of your human brain, which is the power of your imagination. If in that moment you're stressed and overwhelmed, if you're triggered by something, at a meeting, an argument with somebody, overwhelmed with 1,000 emails, coming off a weekend when it's the case of the Mondays where you've got so much to do, if you can get into presence consistently, if you can make it a new habit where the chemistry of your body starts to anticipate it. Good rituals, good habits, like I was saying, habits rule, as Wordsworth said, habits rule the unreflecting herd. We're all ruled by our habits. If you can create new habits, but the simple first step is your breath is the quickest way to get your physiology out of stress, by oxygenating your system, by taking a conscious breath with your imagination focused on what it is you want. If you're overwhelmed by emails, by work trips, by not seeing your family enough, by physical illness, conscious breathing has a lot to do with changing your physiology, which then helps rewire your neural pathways out of stress.
That's brilliant. Billy, what does a productive yet present morning routine look like?
Well, Santiago, I teach this 1-minute meditation. It's called the Nowist meditation. And it's too involved to go in here. But if you go to my website, which is billymandarino.com, it's my name.com. Mandarino is spelled like the mandarin orange with an O on the end. Mandarino property, billymandarino.com. And I have 620 some videos on my YouTube channel from my mothership, which is billymandarino.com. It links out. And I teach the Nowist meditation. You just go to my channel, look Nowist meditation up. It's a 1-minute meditation that you can do convergently, which means your eyes open, or divergently, which means your eyes close. And you can do this 1-minute meditation. I do it every morning. When I wake up in the morning, I walk to our slider. The ocean is out there. I look at the ocean. I have this breathing technique that I do, which I also teach in the Nowist meditation. But this 1-minute meditation starts my morning. Talk about neural programming, neural plasticity. I rewire and fire my neurons and my thoughts and my energetic synapses in my brain to connect to this morning ritual. So the chemistry in my body anticipates feeling good. Epinephrine, adrenaline, serotonin, positive chemistry is just waiting for me when I wake up. But the first thing I do before I get out of this bed is I have this left hand on my heart, and this right hand covers it. And I breathe into my heart, similar to what we talked about. And I say gratitude prayers. I'm in prayer. I'm in meditation before I even hit the floor with my feet. And then I go from that ritual to the slider to look at that beautiful ocean, do the Nowist meditation, and my body is primed for the day. Imagine how many hours I can go through the day without stress assailing me because I'm already conditioned in presence.
Thanks, Billy. I was just thinking that many people, including myself, start the day with their phones. And I think it has become a very common thing to do. And would you say that this can destroy your day?
I can say for myself, because being a very productive person, doing all I do in the physical world, in time, in the business world, plus with my family, and just these artistic endeavors I have, like creating this feature-length film, I used to be conditioned by the phone. Even while I was teaching, when I was out serving and doing these live events and having calls, online teaching, I would have the same problem because the first thing you think is, oh my gosh, what's my email? What's my day look like? I've got to connect with these people. I forgot to answer the email last night. I got to get to it. You didn't sleep well because you didn't have your to-do list checked off. I understand that, but it only takes a few minutes every day. Everybody has 5 minutes. The first 5 minutes of your day primes you into presence, into your day. It also primes you into your subconscious mind before you go to bed. So my rituals look very similar before I go to bed and when I awake to the world every day. It's 5 minutes, Santiago. Everybody has 5 minutes. And you can practice these simple techniques, and then you can rewire the chemistry of your neuroplasticity. It's called Hebb's law in science and neuroscience. Neurons that fire together, wire together. If you can rewire your morning ritual and your evening ritual, the chemistry of your body, the stress will start to reduce. It's a great first step in getting out of stress, overwhelm, and anxiety in this world that's fighting day and night to keep you just like everybody else.
Billy, you teach that our words have power. How does the way we speak to ourselves and to others impact our energy and success?
Boy, you nailed it right there. There's a wonderful book by Dr. Emoto called The Hidden Messages in Water. Have you ever heard of that book?
No, I haven't.
Look it up, everyone listening, watching, write this down. Dr. Emoto, The Hidden Messages in Water. So they've proved that words have an energetic power. They have an energetic force. They've taken water. So Dr. Emoto had this brilliant study that proved the power of waters and the power of words with water. So he had these jars, and he wrote on the outside on a piece of paper with a pencil, "I hate you. I'm going to kill you." On a different jar, he might write sadness. On a different jar, he might write loneliness or death on a different jar. And then he went and froze those jars. But he did something really smart. He also took jars and wrote prayer, stuck it on a jar, a different jar. "I love you" on a different jar. Blessings, oneness, God awareness, peace be with you on all these jars. So he froze all these jars in a freezer. Imagine there's like 20 jars in this freezer. So what he did next was he took them out, he spliced pieces of this frozen water, put them on under a microscope. And if you look at these images, and you can look them up online, Dr. Emoto, look up Dr. Emoto's water test. You can look it up on YouTube. There's phenomenal videos about it. If you look at the crystal makeup, the crystallization of these water forms with these words, the ones that said, "I'm going to kill you," are all asymmetrical and jagged and have these really, there's no form to them. It's just a mess. Then you go back and you look at "I love you." It looks like a snowflake. Perfect, beautiful geometric patterns. God oneness, unbelievable, just symmetrical, gorgeous patterns. Peace be with you, even more beautiful. And so that proves that just simply writing a word on water has memory. And that proves the power of words in your physiology. We are 70% water. The world is 70% water. That's a clue. The words we say connect to the energy field in the water and electricity of our bodies. So imagine if you have bad self-talk, Santiago. "I'm not going to get this meeting done. You always screw up. You're a loser. You suck. How could you miss this appointment? You're never going to make it. You're not going to make your numbers. Your wife is not going to, you're on the rocks." If you keep telling yourself words, concepts, thoughts that don't empower you, the words in your body are charging the energy field of your body along with the water in your body. So they're affecting the cells of your body. We're mostly water. So if you're thinking and feeling these terrible words, they're energetically changing your life inside. So most people have that stress. Most people think 40,000 of the same thoughts they thought yesterday. Very few of those thoughts are positive. Very few of those words are positive. So let's think about how your words change your life. And Dr. Emoto, a scientist, proved it.
You've said that we need to become a magnetic attractor, emotionally, socially, spiritually, and financially. What does that mean and how does it work?
So I just alluded to it with the power of words, with the power of your awareness, the power of your present moment awareness, to be a magnetic attractor. When you use this beautiful gift we've been given called I think it's one of the greatest gifts we've ever been given, creation has ever given us, the power of our wonderful human imagination. Remember thinking from the end instead of about the end we spoke to a little bit earlier? If you can prime yourself and you can imagine yourself having this day, that's why when I have my first 5 minutes of my morning ritual and I'm at that slider and I'm doing the nowist meditation, I'm also finishing that prayer focused on my day, seeing everything go well. Meetings that I have scheduled. I'm going to my daughter's softball game, having to find a financier for our film. I see these things happening. So I affect the internal dialogue with the words because I understand that my words are the energy field of my body. But I also use the power of my imagination linked to the image from the end. I see it already going well. So imagine if you're priming the physiology and the chemicals of your body in awareness and using your imagination. You become a tuning fork, tuned to like energy in the world for your day. You are more powerful than you know. Most people think it's all a thinking thing. It's all what I do and I'm a human doing. You're a human being. Tune to that and watch how your life changes.
How do you coach people who are stuck in a negative cycle? Like always focusing on what's missing instead of what's present. Is this something that people can change, or do you think there is people that is predetermined to think more negatively and not to become a magnet, as you just said?
You may have heard this before, but when you're playing a record, an old gramophone record or just a regular 33-note record, if I scratch that record, it can never play again. Every time you hit that section, it's going to bump, it's going to skip, right? So we have to interrupt the patterns, the negative patterns of our life so that our life can never play the same. So what I do is I pattern interrupts. You have to interrupt the patterns through new rituals, through new habits, so the record can never play the same. The morning ritual, the evening ritual, those can interrupt your patterns. So you won't wake up and want to look at your phone. You won't wake up already conditioned to stress because you had a terrible night's sleep. So what happens, Santiago, is the last 5 minutes of your day, most people spend thinking about how terrible their day was. They'll think about the things that went wrong. They'll think about how they weren't enough. They weren't good enough. They didn't accomplish the goal. And they'll go to bed. And whatever you think in your mind stays in your subconscious mind for the first 4 hours you sleep. It's been proven scientifically. So imagine if you're priming yourself with what didn't work out and you're stuck there, and your subconscious mind, which is supposed to put you in a reparative state, so this parasympathetic system of ours can reconnect to the healing with our body, our cells can regenerate. But if you're in that negative energy, saying negative things, we just spoke how water has power and words have power with water, and we're mostly water. So imagine how that's going to affect your patterns. You're never going to have the same. The record's going to play the same way. You're going to wake up, you're going to feel bad. You're going to not have wonderful success. You're not going to feel connected to what your greater purpose of your life is. So it's about pattern interrupt. You have to interrupt that pattern so that record can never play the same.
Rapid fire questions, answer in 30 seconds or less. What's the number one habit that keeps people stuck in stress?
Lack of gratitude, thinking selfishly.
What is a simple way to reset when you feel overwhelmed?
Breathing through your nose quickly twice, hold for a few seconds, exhale. That can interrupt your pattern and change the physiology of your body quickly.
Meditation or movement, which one boosts productivity more?
Absolutely meditation, 100%, because we are what we think about, whether we like it or not.
What is a common misconception about being present?
That I'm going to miss out on the things I need to do, that I'm going to be complacent and lazy and be stuck in a cave meditating and not getting anything done. That's a big misconception.
If you could give one life-changing piece of advice in just one sentence, what would it be?
Live from the end instead of about the end. And then when you have what you want, give it away.
Amazing. Billy, you just mentioned a keyword that got stuck in my brain. Fear of missing out, right? FOMO, the famous FOMO that is driving our society. Recently, I came across a new term. Well, I don't know if it's new, but I heard it recently. It's JOMO, joy of missing out.
I love that. I've never heard that. Thank you.
I heard it recently and I thought it was a very interesting concept. So it seems that there is people that is having a lot of fun now and enjoying not doing something. Where do we find the balance between, because FOMO, if you think about FOMO, is also a sign of somehow curiosity, experiencing, trying things, maximizing your life. On the other hand, I don't think that anyone wants to do the JOMO thing and miss absolutely everything in their life. Where do we strike a balance there, Billy?
Well, this whole conversation is, I think, about that balance, because it's about living in the present moment awareness. When you're in the now, you've won. You've won your presence back. So the JOMO and the FOMO can coexist in that one present moment, because if you're detached from the outcome and you're living out of comparison mentality, remember Mark Twain said, comparison is the death of joy, the joy of missing out, right? So if you can live in the present moment awareness, detached from the outcome and literally immersed in what is happening in this moment, and don't judge it, don't compare yourself, live in surrendered present moment awareness, that's living as a nowist. And that, to me, is when you have the best of all worlds.
If listeners can take only one thing away from this conversation, what should it be?
It should be now one. When you're in the now, you have won. And experience that. What does that mean? N-O-W spelled backwards is one. When you're in the now, you've won. It's also one, homonym, one present moment awareness, living out of time, living out of the physical world. And when you do that, how you react in the physical world changes. So Dr. Wayne Dyer, I'll leave you with this. He's one of my great teachers. He's in my book. A lot of his teachings that I've learned are in my book from him. He says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that was literally his epitome after he passed away. That's what he left us. This beautiful, he wrote 40 books, one of the most powerful spiritual teachers that ever walked this blue planet. And that was his takeaway.
Where can people find your book, Billy?
If they go to billymandarino.com, it's my name.com. It links out to all my social, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. It all links out there. You can also get my book directly from my site. But more importantly, you can check out our film that we're working on. There's a link on my site that takes you directly to a trailer for our movie, the concept of the movie, and how our movie's here to help people get out of trauma. Our movie is here to help change the world out of stress, overwhelm, fear, and anxiety.
This is amazing, Billy. And I want to thank you for your wisdom and for putting the audience into a bright mood, present mood, enjoying what we have today. I have enormously enjoyed this conversation, I want to tell you, Billy. And you are incredibly inspiring. And I wish you have a lot of luck with this movie, which has a great cause, and with your book, and I'm sure future books, and everything that you do in your life.
Thank you, Santiago. It's been my honor to be of service to you and your audience, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to Productivi-Tree. I hope you found something useful in today's episode. If you did, and it helps improve your life even a tiny bit, that'll make me really happy. Remember, you can find Productivi-Tree on all major podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. If you enjoyed the show, why not share it with a friend who might also find it helpful? Until next time, and keep growing and stay productive.